Now, having been trekking in India for around 7-8 years now, and having gone and trekked in Switzerland, especially in the Swiss Alps and in the Indian Himalayas, I found there to be a lot of differences between trekking in India and trekking in Switzerland. And I thought I'll outline some of those for you so you get an idea of how to prepare yourself for a trek in Switzerland. To begin with, trekking in Switzerland does not involve too many multi-day treks at all. So in India, when we're trekking, even on simple treks like Kuwari Pass and Dayara Bugyal, you are trekking for 4 days continuously from one campsite to another. But this concept doesn't exist at all in Switzerland. Most of the treks are day hikes where you start in the morning and end in the evening and you're still within civilization. So this concept of complete wilderness is something that I did not see at all in Switzerland. You are always in civilization. There's always infrastructure around you. So in Switzerland, how it works is they have mountain huts everywhere. So most people trek from one mountain hut to another mountain hut. In fact, it's very similar to Nepal, but these are very less populated. Hardly any people trek over here except the locals. So in Switzerland, don't expect too many multi-day treks like how we do in India. Most of them are day treks. Another big difference between trekking in Switzerland and trekking in India is that I notice people don't camp in Switzerland. I was actually trying to find out if we can camp to cut our cost on this while traveling in Switzerland, because Switzerland is generally very expensive and not many people can afford that kind of travel. So I was trying to find out, can we camp in different locations? But what I learned to my surprise is camping is not at all the norm, even when you're trekking. Like in India, where you trek every few, if you're trekking for a 4-day trek, you're usually camping 3 nights. Or even locally, overnight treks, you're usually camping. But in Switzerland, what most people do is they go to these mountain huts and then continue from there the next day, or they go all the way to the top to their destination and take a cableway all the way back down and then go home and stay over. So camping is really not a practice in Switzerland, not something we can rely on. One of the biggest differences in trekking in Switzerland and India I noticed was trekking is very, very easily accessible in Switzerland. For instance, in India, even if you want to do a small trek, you usually have to go a long way into the foothills of the Himalayas on an 8-hour drive and then stay there and then start your trek the next day. And once you go into the trek, it is complete wilderness for the next few days. So this is not the case in Switzerland. There is so much infrastructure around trekking in Switzerland that you can make plans even in the last minute, go across the country to another part of the country altogether, do a trek there and come back home by evening. That is how well connected the entire country is, through train, through bus, and even through cableway. So in the local apps where you're using when you're moving around in Switzerland, they show you buses, they show you trains, they even show you boats sometimes, and they show you cableways. These are very normal transport mediums in Switzerland, and this is something that makes trekking very easily accessible throughout the country. So this was a very big difference between trekking in the Indian Himalayas and trekking in the Swiss Alps.
So I'm at the station called Eyeholes. I don't think anybody comes here, not even the locals, because it's a very small town. It's very close to this place called Brig, which is more of a central location. So this is thoda like outskirts. So much so that the train doesn't stop here. I realize I have to request a stop. So there are these buttons. So I have to request for a stop depending on which side I want to go to by pressing those buttons. Thankfully, I saw it because the train is coming in the next 4 minutes and I've hit the button and I can get into the train here. So you can see there's a railway track here, but there's also a railway track across this thing. You can actually see a train coming over there in the distance on that trail. So if the train doesn't need to stop, it goes there, and if it needs to stop, it comes here. Thank God I saw that.
Another big difference was that there was continuous connectivity on the entire trekking trails. All trekking trails that I did, if I wanted to make a call anywhere, I had my phone, I had connectivity. I could use an app to summon help if I needed to call for emergency, to call for an airlift. So connectivity on any trail is a given in the Swiss Alps, even on top of a mountain. So I could make a phone call right from Mount Breithorn, which is like a proper summit, 4,000 kilometer summit in the Alps. So network connectivity is not a problem anywhere in Switzerland, unlike in India, where even at most base camps we still are struggling with connectivity. So I thought this makes trekking very easy and very accessible again outside of the infrastructure in Switzerland. Another big difference I found, and it was quite shocking for me, is that there is no concept of guides or trek leaders or organized trekking in Switzerland. So most of you, if you're trekking in Switzerland, you're on your own. In fact, my entire itinerary was designed by this company called Eurotrek, which is a trekking organization that operates throughout Europe. But they shared a lot of information with me, all the resources that I need to trek on my own. I never actually met a person from Eurotrek. So this is how most people trek in Switzerland. They get the information and trek do-it-yourself style. I think in India, that's not the case right now. Very few people trek DIY style, and that's something we want to encourage at Indiahikes. On the other hand, I also feel it's nice to have a guide or someone to help you organize a trek, especially when you don't know anything about trekking at all. So if you're completely new to trekking, you need to acquaint yourself a little bit before you go trekking in Switzerland, because you will be trekking on your own.
So you see this mark on the left side with the white and red. So all trails are marked with this to show you the way. And there are also really nice signboards everywhere. You can't see it from here, but there's no possibility of you getting lost.
Now, these are some basic differences between trekking in Switzerland and trekking in India. There are also some commonalities where it is still cold in Switzerland, much like trekking in the Indian Himalayas. You'll need all your layers, especially if you're going to a higher altitude of around 9,000 or 10,000 feet. But it is a very, very different experience overall, because the entire culture is different, the entire country is different, the way of living is different, the way of looking at trekking, that entire perception is different. So I would really recommend trekking in Switzerland and not going just as a tourist, because trekking gives you a completely different perspective of Switzerland as a country, which you don't usually see in the postcards. So I've made another video with the treks that you can do in Switzerland. Make sure you take a look at that. If you have any questions, just drop in a comment and I'll be able to help you out. We'll be putting up more videos on tips on trekking in Switzerland, and outside of Switzerland we have lots of videos on trekking within India and especially in the Indian Himalayas. So make sure you go through our channel, hit the subscribe button and the notify icon next to it so that you know when we publish our next videos. We'll be back with more soon. I'm Swathi from Indiahikes and you're watching Trek with Swathi.